And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. And really what I should have started with at the bonus episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. That's right, folks. You're getting not one, but two of them today. No, not today. This week, I should say, because we are going to be talking acquisitions today. We're going to be talking acquisitions tomorrow. And because both subjects are so big and have so much incredible information that we needed to split into 2 days. I am very, very privileged to have this special panel with me today. A little bit of everybody from different shows making their appearance. Pardon if you hear the AC. I'm going to shut that down in a second. Right now, it's almost 90 degrees. It's going to be hell of a hot week here in New York, almost 100 every day. F the summer is all I can say, especially if you're in New York. But Fuzzy, welcome, brother. How the heck are you feeling? And thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. It's awesome to be here with you guys. Thanks for the invite. And man, I can't wait to get talking about this topic because it definitely has some merit. Microsoft and Netflix, it makes a pretty good couple.
Yeah, I'll tell you right. Look, I'm gonna say this as we wait for people to kind of file in here. I am going to sell you on the idea that Microsoft in 2023, specifically in January or February, is going to announce this deal. I am telling you for a fact. It's not a suggestion. It's not an opinion. This is going to happen, and I'm going to break down as to why it is going to happen, why it makes sense, why Microsoft is the only American company set up to do this both financially, structurally, and more importantly, having the ability not to be shut down by the FTC or the Department of Justice for a quote-unquote monopoly. I'm going to break all of that down for you, and I'm telling you, by the end of this conversation, you're going to watch this again, and you'll be like, that damn Mr. Boomstick had it all right. And I'll break down why in a second. Daniel McG, thank you for joining us today. You'll be back tomorrow for the second half of the Xbox Factor podcast, where we're going to be breaking down how by August, ladies and gentlemen, the ABK deal could be signed, sealed, and delivered. And this fall, well, it could be a big fall, especially for ABK games to drop directly into Xbox Game Pass, selling their potential $200 Series S on Black Friday. It appears, even though without any first-party bangers, as the kids call it, Microsoft might have one hell of a year lined up, and it all rides on this ABK deal, which again, according to sources familiar, could be done in August. But thank you for being here, brother. I want to welcome back Mr. IGN himself, BitCloud Gaming. What's going on, brother? How the heck are you?
I'm good, man. It's been a while.
It has been a while. And folks, if you missed Friday's show of his podcast, which I want you to sell your brand at the end, but we got to give you some props now. He got a chance to sit down with the legendary and extremely outspoken David Jaffe. How was that for you, brother?
It was cool, man. Really, really cool. Learning how God of War came to be. I did a full-fledged I wrote a full-fledged article on it as well. It's on lordsofgaming.net. So it was awesome to hear his story, how he got into the business, and what led to what in terms of, seeing this character go from, how it started to where it is now. And it was cool. There's a lot to learn from him. Absolutely. We also got into a funny conversation about pre-orders and collector's editions. So it's a really interesting show. I will say that, but had a blast talking to Jeff.
Well, listen, yeah, we'll get the exact location of where people can go check out that and many of your hot takes for your YouTube channel at the end of this show, which should run this, folks. We're looking to do maybe 90 minutes, give or take, because obviously everyone's on a time schedule, and then obviously throughout the remainder of the week, every show that I normally do will run its full course. This week, you're getting 5 shows, folks. Last week, we were a little short. We only had 2 shows, and that's because Mrs. Boomstick was on vacation, and over the weekend, we had family over. And P.S., by the way, I know my nephew Tyler's listening, and very proud of this. We 1,000 out of 1,000 Peppa Pig, and you know what? We had a blast doing it. I quite enjoyed it. I think more so because he enjoyed it, but we did. We got 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements in Peppa Pig, and we had fun doing it. And that's really what it's all about. But Josh is here, ladies and gentlemen. You know him from multiple podcasts of his own, but of course, every week he's on the Xbox Factor podcast. And folks, he is battling COVID, but yet he's still in the seat. What's up, Josh?
We are here. We are fighting. What is up? Crazy news. What a week for Xbox. It's gonna be an exciting show. So glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. But listen, let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. According to an article that was posted on Friday, July 14th by Yahoo Finance, Netflix, as we know, has chosen Microsoft to help roll out its new ad-supported offering, which is expected to launch in the third quarter of 2023. But there is one analyst that calls this a fugazi. I call it a Trojan horse. And they're saying, well, their analyst is saying that this deal could potentially conceal a hidden agenda while questioning the timeline of this agreement. And according to Lauren Martin Needham, senior analyst, well, they told Yahoo Finance live on Thursday's show, proposing that perhaps the streaming giant is making a long-term play to be acquired by Microsoft. The analyst went on to explain that no other company that Netflix could have partnered with will have been able to potentially spend what is expected to be $100 billion acquisition, either due to financial constraints or regulatory issues. Now, according to the article, which again I will have in the show notes if you want to read it yourself, they say this: Netflix is trying to get closer to Microsoft in hopes that after Microsoft digests its Activision acquisition, it turns and buys Netflix next. And that comes directly from Laura Martin. The bold prediction comes as Martin questioned Netflix's decision given Microsoft's lack of experience in the third-party ad tech business. And she went on to say that Wall Street does not have a price yet on this ad service that's expected to once again launch in the third quarter of 2023, and they don't like that. So here is what I'm proposing. Okay, now this is where I'm going to sell you the $100 billion Netflix Microsoft acquisition. If you were to suggest anyone but Microsoft, you would be wrong. And I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. Disney can't do it because they have Disney Plus. Apple can't do it because, well, they have Apple TV. Amazon has Prime. Google TV has Chrome. And while Sony can't do it for two reasons: one, they can't afford it, and B, they certainly have Sony Pictures. They have their own stuff going on regarding film. And there is one player, folks, one player in all of the American companies that not only have the structure to make a deal this big, but certainly the capital in order to do it. Oh, somebody's mic is acting a little crazy. Oh, I'm getting some massive feedback. Let's see who that is.
Is that me?
Yeah, that was you, buddy. No
that was
problem.
Me?
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, listen. Let's. I'm sorry, I don't want to lose my point here. Out of all of the bigs who can financially afford it, well, I don't think that they would be interested in doing it, because what happens with regulatory eyes is they would be considered a monopoly. Microsoft is in a position where they're not in the film and TV business. That's why this makes a lot of sense. And calling it a Trojan horse, I don't think is too far from the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity. And we know that opportunity only knocks a couple of times. Microsoft finds themselves in a very, very unique position. What happened with did anyone in the chat? We have over 230 people here. Did anyone or did consider or even think that Activision Blizzard King would be something that Microsoft would be acquiring? No, you'd be lying if you did, because none of us thought that. This, if you would have given me 100 guesses, I would have been like, there's no way I would even pick this at all. And here we are, potentially 30 days away from the deal being done. Call of Duty is going to be first party. Think about that for a second. King is going to be first party. Anything from Blizzard, whether it's new, old, or otherwise, is going to be first party. It is going to change the gaming faceplate as we've never seen it done before. You thought that the Bethesda deal was big? This 10 times trumps it. And forget, just thinking about the IP, if you just imagine once the ABK deal is done, how much IP is going to be under the Microsoft Xbox banner, and you somehow now add to the equation potentially in early 2023 that Microsoft acquires them for $100 billion. What that does almost instantaneously is give Microsoft the window or the key for the door for 220 million plus subscribers. It immediately makes all of their IPs TV series or film, something that they're looking to do. We've seen them then do it with Halo. Been having a lot of trouble with Gears of War. Could you imagine an actual Call of Duty series where each new season goes to Vietnam or goes to the Afghanistan, whatever their current topic they're going to cover? That would be massive. And if they can incorporate, hey, you want to watch the show, you can also play the game, click here. The potential, ladies and gentlemen, it's just mind-boggling. And listen, I'm not an analyst, right? I'm just a retired guy that has a podcast that I quite enjoy doing. So if I'm thinking about all of this, the people making 6 and 7 figures, they're thinking about it as well. Daniel, I want to grab your opinion on this. What are your thoughts on this, what the analysts had to say, calling this a fugazi, or even me calling it a Trojan horse to potentially an acquisition where Microsoft is, in fact, the only one that can do it both regulatory and financially?
Yeah, I can't speak to it being a fugazi because I don't know what that means. But what I can say is Xbox has this recurring thing happening where they keep doing the thing that we think is completely impossible. No one would have thought that they would have bought Bethesda, and then they did. And then we start thinking on that level of purchase as being possible, and they're like, what if we bought Activision Blizzard? And they step it up one more. So them buying Netflix, I think, is within the realm of possibility. It doesn't feel real at the moment, but at this point, I don't think I would be shocked if they were to announce pretty much anything. So in terms of just, is it possible? That'd be fantastic. And it would be huge, of course. I don't know necessarily that they would need to purchase it to get a lot of the benefits that they would get out of it. I think the two biggest things that they want to do would be migrate Netflix over from AWS onto Azure, because that obviously helps Microsoft, but also they've named Amazon as one of their biggest competitors. So moving something as huge as Netflix off of AWS onto Azure.
We're gonna get into that, because according to and a lot of the information I got, I want to thank publicly Kay Asante, who sent this over. Just and like I said, Dan, we will get more on the back end of it, but just to give everyone the idea here, Netflix uses AWS, which is Amazon's service, and each year it has gone up significantly. Well, according to the report that I got here that Kay Asante sent us from Cloud Zero, it says this, folks. Netflix uses AWS for almost everything cloud computing. That includes online storage, recommendations engine, video transcoding, database, and analytics. So for the most part, Netflix is expected to spend in the next couple of years $1 billion per year for usage of AWS. That $1 billion goes away if Microsoft picks them up because they have what? Azure. But please continue, Daniel.
No, yeah. So I think that would be obviously one of the hugest things. And then the other thing is, of course, that I think you already mentioned it, is that having a streaming service, having the ability to create film and video versions of your games immediately helps you to increase sort of the draw of that, right? We're seeing other people doing that in the industry already. Namely, PlayStation has a TV show or a movie coming out for pretty much all of their biggest IP. I guess Spider-Man wouldn't really count because they were doing that already, but like God of War is getting a show, Horizon's getting a show,
Gran Turismo
is
getting a show,
which is like, I'm not really
Twisted
sure what
Metal
that's going to be,
is
but
getting
they're
one.
probably
Twisted
fine.
Metal. That's right. Twisted Metal.
Mhm.
Twisted Metal, I don't even understand. Like, I've read the description of that one, and it's like, it's just wild.
I'm
Maybe it'll
a
be good.
Twisted Metal stan, so I will have to say I will
Yeah.
love to see the madness.
for sure. But yeah, so like Microsoft having an avenue to expand their IP like recognition, I guess you would call it, like having people actually know what Gears of War is. Like if there's a Gears of War show on Netflix, then like my sisters are going to know what that is. My mom's going to know what that is.
Yes.
Right. Whereas right now the games have already existed for however long and they have no idea. Right. So it's about just brand recognition. And I think, one of the things that people always want to bring up is like, oh, Netflix is down X many subs, they're doing terrible or whatever. Like they're taking big hits. And it's like, they are taking hits. I think it's almost entirely because they have so much more competition now than they had before.
Yep.
But even if you look at it, like that's what I was just looking up while we were starting here. Netflix is still sitting at like over 200 million subs, and I looked up Disney Plus because I feel like that's the like big competitor that everyone always wants to compare it to because they have, in my opinion, better content on Disney Plus, and they're only at 87 million. So it's like, oh, Netflix is hurting, but they're still more than twice the next biggest guy. So it's like, are they hurting that much? I don't know.
No. Listen, wonderful points, and that does speak for what a Netflix acquisition could do for Xbox. Netflix, for the most part, is something, and I don't want to be offensive here. The normies, the casuals, which won Sony the PlayStation 4 generation by leaps and bounds. It wasn't even a contest. It's like Microsoft limped into third, or if there was a fourth place, they would have been there. The normies, the casual audience who heard from their friends, from us, the hardcores, won that generation for Sony, and they continue to support Sony's PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. That's not even a suggestion, folks. That's a fact. If you can somehow bring Netflix home and you make that ownership of Microsoft, what that does is, again, open the door to 200,000 potential Game Pass subscribers. I don't know how they incorporate Game Pass into Netflix and Netflix into Game Pass, because I'm not going to, even if I had the answer, I wouldn't give it to you for free. I'd be waiting for a call from Microsoft, because I give them enough free stuff. So if they want it, go check out my About page on YouTube and email me, and we can have a conversation. Because I'm sure there are a lot more better minds than mine that could come up with it. And if they're not, you're paying the wrong people. But I got to reel this back in, and I want to go to Josh. Josh, you obviously are someone that has your hand in multiple pies. You do TikTok, you do YouTube, you do Twitter, you do a lot of different services, a lot of social media services. I want to propose something, and you tell me if I'm a lunatic here. We know, and we have been hearing this for over 18 months, potentially 2 years, that there was a third Xbox in development, in the form of a streaming puck, stick, whatever you want to call it, a box, whatever, right? And we kept hearing about it. We kept hearing about it until we got it confirmed by multiple sources like Jez Corden, like Jeffrey Grubb. Several others have been talking about this for quite some time. And we know for a fact that it's real because Microsoft themselves told us that it was real, right? Now we know it's out there. And they said very suspiciously, Josh, in the last couple of about a month ago, well, we're going to go back to the drawing board because we're not just there yet. I kind of find that the timing very suspicious. You know, the streaming box, stick, cup, puck, whatever you want to call it, is out there. It's an actual thing, but it's been delayed. And now we hear this Netflix deal come out of nowhere. And now we're hearing different analysts say that it's a Trojan horse, that there's more to it than meets the eye. Transformers, i.e. What are your thoughts of timing? Because timing seems to be something that Microsoft seems to be doing really good with in the last couple of acquisitions. ABK being the next one, Netflix potentially being the big announcement for 23. What are your thoughts on this?
Let's go ahead to 2024, where they also purchased Spotify, and Game Pass now becomes the ultimate entertainment subscription service.
Wow. I love it.
I'm just playing. But
you never know.
That really seems the way that this could all go, right? But when I said that, though, did any of you guys did the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and you thought about the original Xbox One presentation where it was like, yo, are we selling games or TV here? What's going on, right? Right? So but I mean, how many of us my Xbox One, even my PS3, I bought that so I could watch Blu-rays on it, right? And then eventually Netflix was watched on it some. But I mean, my Xbox, my 360, my One,
it launched on the 360 first.
Yeah,
of any gaming system.
Right, you had to use a disc on the Wii. I don't know if you guys remember that, but you had to put a disc in your Wii to get it to play, right? And so what I would really love to see here is if this were to happen, I would love to see my mind is thinking a lot about Netflix and their business model. And I've always felt like they've lacked one major thing. Why can we not purchase brand new movies on their platform? Right. And so my Movies Anywhere or whatever, I typically go to Vudu, right? Or I go to Amazon. If Netflix was a little more like Amazon Prime, where you can purchase brand new stuff, rent stuff, that's money in their pocket. And I've never understood, and I've not researched it, but I've never understood why they went so hard into streaming and never had any kind of a storefront. It never really made sense to me. If Xbox acquires them, hopefully within the Xbox ecosystem where you can purchase movies, you can rent movies, all of that could be one, to where it kind of just unifies all of our entertainment in one place instead of bouncing between. I mean, don't get me wrong, your exclusive shows on HBO, you're gonna go there, right? But the movies that you're gonna purchase, because I don't know how everybody. I stopped buying Blu-rays. I buy all my movies digitally now. It's just so much more
convenient.
Convenient, you know. Yeah. But what was crazy, that being sick, I'm like, yo, this is my time, right? I'm like, I have to slow down, and I don't slow down. But I'm like, I saw the trailer for Avatar 2, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll buy Avatar digitally because I'm too lazy to get up and put it into my Xbox One, right?
I love it. That's great.
But
I'm too lazy to get up, so I'm going to just buy digitally.
but I was like, wait, Google Avatar streaming, it was on Disney Plus, so I didn't have to purchase it. I could just watch it there, right? So I was good. But I would love to have everything like that unified. And I think, you know, as you guys are kind of talking about the normies or whatever, this is, I mean, what better value would there be in a bundle that gives you access to hundreds of games, thousands of TV shows, all in one? I mean, it just makes Game Pass even that much more. I mean, at that point, they probably call it Entertainment Pass, or, you know, I don't know what they would say.
Ultimate Pass or something.
Yeah. Like, but again, But again, going back to the Xbox One, the marketing has to be right. They have to, like, they do need to launch with some kind of a controller and the X Puck or whatever, and just say, here's your ultimate entertainment bundle. You know, you get everything that Xbox can do, which gives you access to HBO, Vudu, all the storefronts, you know, all the different streaming services, plus now Netflix. And, you know, I mean, I assume Netflix is going to have a similar pricing model to Hulu, just with the current news and what we're talking about here, with no acquisition taking place, that you're going to be able to spend more to get out of having to watch those ads. But at the same time, I wonder if it becomes more appealing to have your content on Netflix, if there's more of a chance for it to be, if it's less of a one and done and more of a YouTube kind of thing, where the more people watch, the more ads play. Maybe I don't know if they do it. I don't know if Hulu does like profit sharing like that. I know there's certain shows that are like, it doesn't matter if you pay for no ads, you're still getting ads. And I don't know if that's due to publishing rights or the broadcaster. I'm not sure. I don't understand all the details there, but it seems like, I mean, everybody loves their streaming service. Stranger Things just did really well. Maybe, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like a lot of times with Netflix, it's where movies go to die. Like
they find like the bottom of the barrel stuff.
Or like stuff that like Hollywood was like, nah, we're not putting this in the theater, but we'll put it on Netflix. And that needs to if Xbox is going, or Microsoft is going to get into the game here, they need to make Netflix the place that people want to be to watch shows and movies, not just Stranger Things. Because I don't go to Netflix all that much anymore.
We're there every day. You know what it is also? I saw a couple of chats in here. Like, my wife and I are addicted to Korean dramas. Mm-hmm. Like I love them, dude. Like we're watching 3. Like, we normally just stick to 1. And now we love them so much that we're watching 3 at the same time. It's crazy because now they do the weekly episodes. They give you one on a Friday, a Saturday, and the other one is a Sunday, Monday. Like we go. I'm on Netflix every day. Besides playing games and everything else. So again, for each is everyone's own. Yeah. But I like what you're putting down, Josh. And I think that Microsoft wants to be in a position where they are the one-stop shopping for everything. And it's interesting. And I want to bring a BitCloud into the conversation. We just learned that Netflix has a gaming division. Hey, guess what? They make games, ladies and gentlemen, and they are not that good at doing so. Who makes games? Oh, Microsoft makes good games. Now, maybe we're waiting on first party to deliver, but you can't deny
they
make
results,
good games, right? So this is one of those opportunities, that again, right now, people are going to walk away from this conversation and say, you know what? I either believe him or he's a lunatic, and that's fine either way. But I think that when you look at, because I know that Kirby Louise, who's a good friend of the channel, said that Apple would be interested and they could do like a side merger kind of a thing. I don't think that's what Netflix is looking to do. They're not looking to do a merger. They are looking to sell. And I think that when you look at what Microsoft, like I said, Microsoft right now has over $100 billion in cash that they're willing to spend. And Microsoft, again, the regulatory eyes would look at a merge, even a merger, as potentially being bad because Apple TV is pretty big. And to get Netflix, someone like myself would consider that to potentially be a monopoly, whereas Microsoft, who doesn't have anything in TV and film at all. So I think that best suits the conversation. And again, this deal that was made, the analyst, like I said, I have all the information right in front of me here, folks. She thought, and this comes away of Laura Martin Needham, and again, she's a senior analyst. She told Yahoo Finance that she was a little perplexed as to why Netflix would go with Microsoft because they don't have experience in third-party market adding. That makes a lot of sense. So again, it does raise potentially, why would you go to someone that's inexperienced to do your ads if they're behind the scenes isn't something like, hey, listen, we're going to start here and now eventually going to announce a merger or an acquisition. What are your thoughts on this bit? Is this the next big play for Microsoft? Because like I said, this goes beyond gaming. This isn't just about Xbox. This is the future of Microsoft learning that their digital entertainment, whether that be film, whether that be TV or video games,
Yeah.
they're looking for a long play here. They want you to go to them for your everything. I pay this one price, whether it goes up to $20 or it's $25 a month per month, whatever it winds up going to, they want you to go here to get all of your digital content. Is this the next big play for them?
So, you kind of ironically answered the question by itself when it comes to the next big play, because let's look at the situation, right? Even Sony's talking about gaming beyond the box,
Yes.
and whatnot. And when you have entertainment features like this, such as Netflix, which has been a big seller for the consoles as well, it just makes sense. But here's the thing: a lot of people are not talking about. You guys remember the Fire Stick option for the Game Pass that was going around for Microsoft?
Yes.
This could have been an easy tie-in with that by itself, and you could work some kind of entertainment / ultimate pass, or whatever you will call it, into that, and have that be merged with it, and then that would be your big entertainment pack to go for it. So therefore they can, instead of just saying, hey, look, we got this amount of games on here, we also have a bonus perk where you get access to these movies. Also, you get a sneak peek or something like that at our new upcoming TV shows for our games itself. Because one thing a lot of people also don't talk about is the quality that has actually jumped up for Netflix in terms of TV shows. Like, I'm not subscribed to Netflix right now. I'm waiting till September for Cobra Kai. But Cobra Kai is like the #1 show for me personally on that service. And if they get their hands on that, again, that's just another selling point for a lot of people to get into that by itself. And when you just look at just how far things have changed, I know a lot of people might be saying, again, it's not possible. We said this again with Activision. We said this with Blizzard. I doubt they dropped this amount of cash, but we learned from Jack Tritton that really nothing is off the table. At this point, the industry is moving forward. Everybody's looking to either consolidate or move or change things in general. And even going back if with Netflix, you got to think about one thing, one key word in here, and that's unionization. Anything that doesn't work, they can clearly wipe from the actual company itself and literally focus on what truly sells and what truly separates it. Now, are they going to outdo Disney Plus? No, Disney Plus is another level, but I do see bigger changes happening in terms of what goes on that service, as opposed to stuff that really does feel like it just was lost in translation type of thing, or direct to DVD type of releases on that service. I do see better releases. Like, we just got this Resident Evil show or whatever that was on that service, and it's not well received at all. I can see a lot of that stuff being dumbed down and them going for bigger, more better experiences on that service.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I haven't had a chance to watch it. I'm obviously a Resident Evil freak. The minute I found out that it did not involve any of the main characters, I kind of felt like it was going to be kind of like the Resident Evils that we saw in film that were not that good. I will eventually, Mrs. Boom and I, who are horror fans, we'll watch it, and we'll give our opinions on it. That's again, that's 0 for 2 with Capcom and Resident Evil, unfortunately, when it comes to film, because the reboot of the film was just wow. I mean, I was looking at my watch when I bought that. I actually
you actually bought it.
Film.
See, they need? They need the director who was behind 28 Days Later, the first one.
Yes, they
need something real dark.
That's what they need to do.
Yeah, they need something dark and gritty to bring that back to life.
Terrible. But listen, let's get fuzzy in on the conversation, and I'm going to bring this back around, folks, because, like I said, I think that when you take a step back and you look at the cost, the actual financial cost of services, it's not the film, it's not the TV, it's not getting the series into Netflix that is the most expensive for them. It is the use of the AWS services. And I want to break that down further on why going to Azure completely makes this an almost slam dunk of a deal. But Fuzzy, let's get your opinion on what the analyst had to say. The way that she positioned herself was that this is a Trojan horse for an eventual acquisition. You seem to think that, in fact, is the case. And just going back to my point, when you look at Amazon, when you look at Google, when you look at Sony Pictures and Apple TV and Disney Plus, yeah, I'm sure that there's room on the table for a quote unquote merger. But that's not what Netflix is looking to do based on the analysts. They want out. They're selling. They are losing money concurrently year upon year upon year. All you got to do is pull up the stats. Their last 5 years have been all losses. And the way that they get out of the business is that they sell for $100 billion. And Microsoft, out of all those companies who have the same money they do, or potentially at least close to it, they would be in the regulatory crosshairs of whether that be the Department of Justice or whether that be the FTC or both of them. Microsoft, again, finds themselves in a very, very unique position, not being in TV and film. What are your thoughts?
Well, to go back to like the analyst's view on it, it is very odd that they pick Microsoft for advertising. Like we know that they have their marketing group as far as for Bing ads and things like that, but it's not as well known in comparison to like Google, for example, which they've used in the past. But as far as like having a company like Microsoft acquire them, they can insulate a lot of the costs, kind of like what you referred to before, where they don't have to worry about the expense of AWS. They have Azure, so it's something that they can, adjust their pricing as they see fit for tax purposes. They can either increase or decrease the price and so forth. So when you're able to control a lot of your supply or a lot of your services as far as what the company expenses are, it makes it a heck of a lot easier, and it makes it easier to be able to move things around, whether you need to focus on acquiring more IP or acquiring more studios that will be able to produce shows and things like that, or the talent for that, being able to pay season 3 and above salaries, because a lot of times whenever you get to like a season 3, a lot of the talent for those shows are going to want more money, and it's something that's eventually going to continue to eat away in Netflix's current state. But when you have something like Microsoft that's able to absorb some of those costs without it being as big of a matter for the overall bottom line, they can reinvest and basically streamline if need be, to get that thing to being back to being a lot more profitable than what it is currently. It's still profitable, but share prices are dropping, and it almost mimics how the Activision Blizzard deal went without the same type of controversies. You don't necessarily have the issues as far as harassment and things like that as far as in the workplace, but you do have the share price, I wouldn't say plummeting, but taking a significant hit in a short period of time. And, Microsoft is that company now, it seems, considering their most recent moves, that they're able to, pounce when need be for a situation like that. And like you said, a lot of the other players in that space, it would definitely come under a lot more scrutiny. Although Disney did kind of eke by with their more recent merger or acquisition and stuff in the past, but that's one of those things where now politicians are going to definitely stick their fingers in the jar type of deal for anything moving forward, and Microsoft is probably the one with the cleanest slate, and they're having secret meetings with some politicians, as well as you should really invest in anything gaming or expand your investment. So I could see this working to both companies' advantage. As far as the shareholders for Netflix, this will be a nice cushion for them. And if they choose to stay with those shares or have those shares convert to MS shares later on, I think it will be to their benefit. As far as for Microsoft, it gives them another foot in the door into the entertainment space that they've kind of wanted to get into, but I don't think they've ever really had a serious opportunity to prior. Like they
tried with the box, but it just didn't translate well with the gamers at the time, with the TV and the Kinect integration.
Yeah, it was one of those things where Microsoft sometimes they're way too early in the direction that the consumer's
100%.
heading.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could totally see this happening. I mean, the ABK deal kind of opened our eyes to almost anything is possible level, and they do still have a couple hundred. Well, I think it was 170 something billion or 160 billion, even after they clear ABK, that they'll still have in liquid assets. So
yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that money
Plus
is just losing value.
Just to reiterate on what you said, here's something interesting. Before they spend that money, the $70+ billion, they made that back last year.
Yeah.
Yep. There's the other thing too about this as well. Puts pressure on Sony. Boom! How many times we talked about Crunchyroll joining PlayStation Plus?
Yeah,
if this happened, this
great point, dude.
Guarantees you you'll get that. If not, that'd be wild. That'd be a missed opportunity to not incorporate that with the service. And also licensing with the way Netflix has been going through. Netflix has a lot of debt, if I remember correctly. Been going through some debt. So that right there immediately translates into why you don't see every single massive movie on Netflix, and you kind of get like those bits and pieces throughout it. Now, if you partner with Microsoft, you have the financial backing to really offer whatever. You can offer a Voodoo like experience you see on their storefronts, and they might incorporate some changes to where you can absolutely buy and own them, and then probably partner with Movies Anywhere, and you have those everywhere you go. So yeah. Possible.
Yeah, that would be an awesome step in the right direction. Yeah,
a lot more convenient.
Yeah, there's just so many positives out of this. I think about the only negative would be, some of the most stringent Microsoft shareholders being like, "Hey, what are you doing?" But in all honesty, that money that they're sitting on, it's losing value until
it is losing value. Yeah, based on inflation alone. I mean, think about it. Inflation has hit a 41-year high, and again, we're not a business channel, folks. We're a gaming channel, but just because obviously, I'm a retired guy. I run a household on my retired salary. I got to be aware of this stuff, and I'm telling you for a fact. And I know people, I know I put myself in the crosshairs when I talk about my $7 cream cheese, but that shit is real, bro. I mean, that stuff is real. Gas over here in New York is still $5 a gallon, and everything is going up and up and up and up, and it's. Look, I'm going to bring in the numbers because I'm a numbers guy, because you can argue a point. You can argue which is your better console. What you can't argue are the facts. And I have numbers, and I want to talk about that. Before I do want to catch up on some of the super chats. The first one of the day comes to us from Highlander 001 of $2. Thank you for the generosity, my brother, and appreciate you being here. He says Disney also has controlling interest in Hulu. Yes, that is an absolute fact. Raiden Blade drops a £2 super chat and says, imagine Netflix free on Game Pass or no price increase. That's interesting. That's a thought.
Also, another thought too for this Netflix thing. Do you guys think they're buying them just for the simple fact that they're trying to keep it out of the hands of Disney? You think they would sell? Keep it out of the hands of Disney? Because Disney,
you know what? As that makes sense, but I think
because Disney's trying to
the ideology behind
keeping
it out of the hands is more so from seeing like a NetEase or a Tencent come in and buy them.
Because I don't know that Disney would be allowed to buy Netflix just because Disney is already if I used to work at a movie theater. If you go into a movie theater, like 2/3 of the movies that are being shown there are probably made by Disney.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy how much how vested interest they have in film. And if you look, if you were to take a whole year, they probably have 25% of the industry easily.
It's crazy, and they already obviously have Disney Plus. They have Hulu. They have ESPN Plus. They offer that as a package deal. That's how my family has it.
Like they're just the way they're showing off the money as well with the TV shows as well. Like the quality you get with Disney's TV shows, like their MCU TV shows, is that pretty much what you were expected to see in like an MCU flat out production you would see in the theater. So
I mean, I would say maybe a little less.
She-Hulk's a different story. But
well, honestly, I would say that I love the MCU stuff that they've been doing on Disney Plus, and I think that their shows are really good. But Phase 4 has been a mess for me. It's that thing where Netflix has
It's got
a
promise,
lot.
but it's just the directions all over there.
Yeah,
all over the place.
like Netflix has a ton of IP or like a ton of shows that they make. The problem is that only a handful of them actually take off, and the ones
And
that do
hits.
take off,
Yep.
they stick with and they understand like how to preserve that brand, right? Like Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy, Squid Game's getting a second season, although that was specifically written as a 1-season thing, so I'm not really sure how that's going to extend, but we'll see.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is like Netflix doesn't have that same pipeline of like, we have Marvel, we have Star Wars, so we can just pump those things into here and continue getting subscribers off of that. So they have to go out and find those things.
They're looking for it. They really are. That's why they were so quick to partner with the guys who make Cobra Kai. They needed as much eyes as
I think it's
possible.
actually Sony, weirdly enough.
Oh yeah.
That's
funny.
But like they go out and they partner with different IPs and they make it work. And in some cases, it works really well. You know, I'm talking about like Camp Cretaceous was really good. Witcher, obviously, Arcane, obviously, and then other times they make live action anime and it's garbage.
Terrible. It's terrible.
You know what I mean?
It's awful.
So they're just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall. And I think, you know, if they partner with Xbox, even, you know, aside from an acquisition or whatever, and they have that IP library to work off of, especially with Xbox going around and like, now we have Bethesda, now we have Activision Blizzard, right? Like that could potentially be an answer to the problem that Netflix has. Because I feel like my biggest thing with Netflix right now is I feel like when they have a really big show, it's the best thing going. Like, in my opinion, Stranger Things season 4 is monumentally better than anything Disney Plus has ever put out. But the problem is that show exists, and then there's 500 other Netflix original shows that don't hold up that
don't
same.
hit. Yeah,
they just don't
Yeah,
hit. Hold
they're
up
just
that
kind of
same
like
level of
thrown.
quality.
Yeah, they're just thrown together, and there's a bunch of. They're trying to hit every category to try to appease everybody, but.
Right. And like, you know, Stranger Things only has 1 season left, but there's also that thing where it's like, name one popular show that had its final season and then that IP was just gone. Like it doesn't happen, right? Game of Thrones.
Well,
has
they already said that they're
right?
going to work. They're working on a side project. They're both brothers. So that's
Lost. Thank God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Popular, yes. Good, questionable.
Yeah.
Well, listen, real quick. Jacob Novick drops a very generous $5 super chat, not once but twice. The first one he says, "I'd put Call of Duty into Game Pass, make Call of Duty BC, then buy IOI and another studio if they want, and buy Netflix. Also, I want Sega." Like I said, they put you in charge. They're going to be bankrupt, brother.
He's got the whole shopping list.
He says some typos in my last super chat, but nevertheless, Sega is on the top of my list of Japanese developers. I want Xbox to buy Sonic, Yakuza, and more. Yeah, I mean, if Everborn Saga is listening, he has a tear in his right eye right now. He's just wiping away. Raiden Blade drops an additional $2 super chats. Or £2 super chat. He says Korean dramas are and I don't know if this was a typo, but I'm assuming that he says it's the Korean dramas are the best shows on the service. 100%. My wife and I agree. We're crazy addicted to them. He also says, didn't the ex-marketing head of Netflix move to Microsoft? Yes, and yes. That is an absolute fact. And I don't have his name. I reached out to who actually told me about it, and that's why I want to send you over to the Gaming Circle podcast from this Saturday. They had Gaz from Game On Daily on there, bringing the sauce as always. Him, Everborn, and Kay Asante were chatting it up. This happened to be one of the topics, and they did talk about the ex-marketing head of Netflix moving over to Microsoft, and to give his conspiracy theory, who of course I'm talking about is Kay Asante. He says, have you ever noticed that when Microsoft is going to make a big acquisition years later, they send people over from their camp over to wherever they're going to eventually purchase? That, obviously that happened with the big Riot Games deal. No, they don't own Riot, but Riot Games, all of their stuff is going to be on Game Pass this fall, and they had a bunch of Microsoft folks go over to Riot, and Riot brought a bunch of people into Microsoft, and it just so happens that Mike Ybarra and ex-head of Gears of the Gears franchise, Ferguson, went to, of course, Blizzard, and now they're coming back home in potentially 30 days. So it's an interesting theory, certainly worth putting on the tinfoil hat. But I do want to bring in the numbers that I was telling you about, folks. And here they are. If you were wondering what it costs Netflix on a monthly basis, check this out. Again, this is thanks to cloudzero.com. I will add this link into the show notes when it's done. And the name of the article is titled "How Much Does Netflix Spend on AWS?" And this is the figures, folks. And these figures are from the last 36 months. Netflix revealed during an investors call that they will be spending over $1 billion on their streaming services through 2023, through next year. And currently, check this out, folks, it costs Netflix $27.78 million per month for AWS services. And the article continues to say it's no wonder Amazon boasts Netflix as its biggest AWS customer regularly, despite owning a competing service in Amazon Prime. Now think about that for a second. And this is interesting. This is another factoid that we can bring into the conversation, and I will round robin it with everyone again. Right now, currently in the world as we know it, AWS is the number one service. It's not Azure. Now Azure is moving up. Microsoft Service is moving up, but they're behind. Yeah. They're still behind AWS. They own Netflix. They announced this acquisition for next year. Now, granted, from what I understand and the way that it was broken down by both Kay Asante and Everborn Saga, in order to transition over from AWS to Azure, I believe Everborn said it would take a decade. Right now, they're obviously going to still be paying, but they would eventually move all of that over to Azure. Once that happens, folks, Microsoft's Azure would be the number one service in the world. I mean, they have these massive government contracts, right? A lot of people, even Sony's using Azure. So this deal, I know that we're all going to talk about it for the next couple of 30 minutes or so, and we're small minding the conversation. But this is a deal that goes at 25 years into the future. This is, and again, we're just podcasters, so we're kind of minimizing what this actually means in this little vacuum that we're having in the conversation today. But the reality is that Microsoft is looking 25 years into the future, and this Netflix deal, like I said, we're only pondering this not because Microsoft has the money. We're only pondering this because this started with Bethesda. No one in their right mind in gaming would have thought that Microsoft was going to invest near $8 billion. And we were like, whoa, my God, I can't believe what's happening. And then in February of this year, they blew our minds with ABK. And based on the information that we're going to be talking about tomorrow, which I don't want to get too much into, I don't want to give it away, because I definitely want you to come back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the regular scheduled Xbox Factor podcast. That deal could be done in 30 days, ladies and gentlemen. In 30 days, it could be done here by the FTC. Now, traditionally, every time a big deal or a merge like this is done, other entities outside of the U.S., the EU, Europe, the UK, they move with the FTC. So if the FTC is giving it the thumbs up, more than likely everyone is going to transition. And interestingly enough, that ABK, the Bethesda deal went from, okay, we are approving the deal. 24 hours later, it was approved by the EU and the UK. A day later. So I would expect something very similar. let's bring everybody back in here. Let me just shut my notes here and bring everyone in. And I'm going to start first with Daniel on this. Daniel, based on the numbers, based on the amount of monies that Netflix is spending, Microsoft is looking at this, the Netflix is looking at this, and it's a win-win for everybody. If they sell for $100 billion, which is what the expected acquisition price would be, based on today's numbers. Now that could change. It can go higher, it can go lower. What are your thoughts on this, Daniel? I mean, getting away from AWS for Netflix is a win. Having Microsoft become number one in the world for their services is a win for Microsoft. This is a deal that looks like it's almost a slam dunk, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a win for everybody, right? If Microsoft acquired Netflix, then they move up Azure into being the number one service or web service basically overnight if they can transfer that over, because all those users are coming with them, right? So that's monumental. And then obviously in terms of just being able to make games based on Netflix IP and being able to make shows based on Microsoft IP, like that's a really great symbiotic relationship that probably Netflix would benefit more from than Xbox, but it would still be great both ways. You know what I mean? It's a really exciting proposition. It's definitely not one that I would have chosen. You know, I'm very much in the camp of like, I think WB would be a more exciting one.
I agree. But that Discovery, they're very stingent on releasing those IP.
Yeah.
Well,
This deal is strictly about expanding the outside of the realm versus focusing on gaming. It's very similar to what you're seeing with the Sony new beyond the box strategy, where the ecosystem will be obviously Xbox, and then you'll branch off into TVs, movies, mobile, and phones and whatnot, whatever you need to say.
Right, absolutely. And it's, Netflix, because obviously if you bought WB, you would get HBO Max, and HBO Max I think is probably more prestigious than Netflix, but there's no arguing obviously that Netflix is significantly larger. So if you're planning on using Netflix as a way of having your IP take off more, like making a Game of Thrones show so that more people, a Gears of War show so that more people know about that, or a Perfect Dark thing so that more people know about that. Like obviously Netflix is the answer for that. I just, just for me personally, because of my own selfish biases, I'm like, I would really like if they had Batman and they could make like a Superman.
Dude, so would I. I'm not going to argue with you one bit. I think that would be awesome, because that would immediately eliminate one of their biggest holes. Like I said, I'm a superhero stan. I'm more of an MCU guy, but I love Batman because he's a human being. He's just smart, rich, and he has a lot of cool toys.
Right.
But I think that you're right, Daniel, and you make a lot of sense. The WB thing is sexy, right? It's a sexy purchase. You're like, wow, that's amazing. They own, the Justice League and the world's a better place. Harry Potter they own. Oh my God, they own Lord of the Rings.
I don't know if that one,
unless that went to Amazon.
That one's got like a weird rule with J.K. Rowling, where it was like if WB gets bought, then that goes back to her or something. I remember somebody saying something.
That's the same thing with Spider-Man. If Sony were to be acquired by, let's say, Apple bought Sony tomorrow. Right. The rights for Spider-Man would revert back to Disney. So I believe you are correct in saying so that if Harry Potter, if WB does get purchased, the rights would revert somehow back to her.
Right. The other aspect of it though is like, I feel like if you were to buy WBD, first of all, it's cheaper. I'm not really sure why, because it seems like you're getting an awful lot more, at least from a gaming perspective, or from my own perspective. But I looked up their net worth, and it's only like they said it was between $65 and $70 billion or something like that. I looked this up like a week ago, so those numbers might be slightly off. But it's like, if they can convince WBD to just sell the whole thing to Xbox, and even if under that circumstance, because obviously the thing that everyone always wants to bring up whenever I talk about this ridiculous them buying WB theory is like, Xbox doesn't know how to make a TV show or a movie or anything. It's like, no, that's why they're buying somebody else to do. Like Phil Spencer's not running down to the studio and being like,
I love it. That's
Get-
great.
get
Hey,
more
Phil,
light on Master
we need
Chief.
your know-how. Run down to the studio
Like,
and give
he's
us
not-
some tips.
They're buying people who have already done this, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know,
It's like Sony with multiplayer games. They bought Bungie for multiplayer expertise.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
and
Like,
and a
there
whole
you
mess
go.
of again that's a big win for Sony because they are going to bring their know-how and that's a good, great one-to-one bit.
yeah, but then you know, for me, this Netflix deal comes down to a very similar thing that the Activision Blizzard one did, where it's like there are other deals that I think would be more exciting, but this one's on the table potentially right now, and it probably won't be for long. So you should probably jump on it while it is. You know what I mean? And then we can figure out what else is there down the road. What I will say is, I know you were saying that like this should be what they announce in January or whatever, like almost as soon as the Activision Blizzard deal goes through. I would selfishly, again, I would push that back slightly because I remember whenever the Activision Blizzard deal came through, they were like, we had all these other acquisitions in the works that we were working on.
Yes.
And we would love it, and like we have to put those on the back burner because now we're buying like the biggest publisher in video games. So I would like to see those ones come
sew up
through
the small
and then
stuff
they
first.
get locked up
Yeah.
in Netflix. But yeah, I think Netflix would be ridiculously huge.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're onto something, and we did hear that from multiple sources. Now, how true they are, we did hear that IO was on the table. We did hear, and this is a fact, folks, because we've had people talk about this publicly. Crystal Dynamics was potentially going to be bought by Microsoft, and if they would not have been locked up, so to speak, with the ABK deal, $300 million. And again, I'm not a millionaire, folks. I do a podcast, so I'm only speaking facetiously, but $300 million for Microsoft to acquire what who the hell acquired them? What the hell's the name of them?
Embracer?
Yeah, Embracer Group. What Embracer Group wound up getting was not only two Dynamite developers, but they got over 50 IP, including PS, by the way, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, which is something that Microsoft, I mean, Phil Spencer talked about it. Why did we do that? Why did we do the year exclusive for Lara Croft second game in the trilogy? And he said it specifically and very clearly. We don't have our own Nathan Drake. We don't have an Uncharted. That's a fact. And that was laid out for them, and they couldn't do anything. And
they're trying to find an Indiana
heart.
Jones, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, that could work, but Lara Croft seemed more logical. You know, it's more logical for everything.
The Lara Croft character has transcended generation after generation. I love Indiana Jones, and I think what Machine Games is going to bring is going to be great. I can't wait to play it, but it's still Indiana Jones. And as great as Indy is, he's more important to me because I'm an old man. For a lot of these younger cats, they're like, who the hell is this Indiana Jones?
No,
but everyone knows who Lara Croft is.
Yeah, it's the tone too.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
Yeah. That's another thing.
Listen, Josh, I want to bring you into the conversation. The numbers situation just screams this is a done deal. Am I wrong for suggesting that?
I mean, I really like what you guys are talking about with the with AWS and Azure. I mean, it from what I'm looking at, I just pulled up some stats here. It looks like they're about like a 32% market share, AWS.
Yeah.
And Azure sitting at 20. That would be a significant boost.
Yeah. With
Netflix for sure. And you know, and you can see there's definitely a fight for the cloud, you know, the cloud market. And so it again, I mean, just going back to everything we've talked about, like it would just be a huge play to have this company under the Microsoft umbrella, and technically the Xbox umbrella, I think, is really the way we could look at this. It would really put them a step above every other company at this point when it comes to your which plastic box are you going to buy and which service are you going to pay for, because we all know that Sony's new, you know, whatever it's called, Game Pass clone, is they're leaning into their brand. They're charging a little bit more. Well, if this deal happens and Netflix is now included with your hundreds of games for close to the same price as what Sony is putting out with just their games that are also not day one, that's big plays. That's very big plays.
Yeah, 100%. I again, we're talking small, looking through the peephole kind of a scenario in this conversation that we're having today. Microsoft's in the boardroom with Satya Nadella is looking 25 years into the future. That's what that's where this conversation comes in. And one of the things that you have to tip your cap to Sony, outside of making absolutely astounding AAA story-driven adult-themed experiences for the PlayStation 4 and now the PlayStation 5, is they have expanded their reach into selling this brand to you as a consumer through what? TV and film. There's a Gran Turismo show coming. There's a Twisted Metal show coming. There's a Last of Us show coming on HBO. They have a Horizon show. I believe that is God Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
There's why can't I hate when I don't have my notes in front of me.
The
one with the samurai bit.
Oh, Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh my God, how did I forget that? I actually platinumed that game because it's just a masterpiece. That's getting a show too. And think about it. They are expanding and they're doing what Sony doesn't have to sell you Spider-Man. We just watched them, right? And we got one coming out. The MCU does holiday.
That for them. All they gotta do is just ride the wave, and that's the
so they are expanding their reach to bring in the fans, and there's no bigger casual audience that they can grab to bring them into PlayStation than bring them in through TV and film. And they have partnered with Netflix. They've partnered with Amazon. They have Sony Pictures. They have all these different shows coming. This is an opportunity for Microsoft to sell lesser known IP outside of the Xbox faithful that we know. You know, if you were to someone that doesn't buy games, like, hey, have you ever heard Gears of War? What? Mm-hmm. Who? They might know Master Chief, right? But it's unlikely they're going to know who the character from Psychonauts is, or Gears of War, or if they're going to know from Hellblade. But if you had a way to inject those IP into TV and film, which streaming is the future of entertainment, now you're on to something. What are your thoughts on that a bit when you look at what Sony is doing and Microsoft finds themselves? And again, folks, this is just an opinion. This was all raised thanks to an analyst. She could be wrong. I could be wrong. I don't think so. But what are your thoughts on Microsoft just following suit to bring their IP to the mainstream, doing what Sony is doing? And Sony can do that because they are currently in. The reason why their games look the way that they do is because they build it from a film perspective.
Yep.
And they're going to deliver that in their film. We're going to be seeing that later this year with The Last of Us.
Yep. So yeah, like you just said, the thing about this too, you gotta look at the marketing side of this by itself. Why is obviously Spider-Man guaranteed to sell 20 million? The next one, well, you got the MCU. The MCU has really, I mean, let's face it, No Way Home is the best Spider-Man film we've had, period.
In history.
That's it. That's the best Spider-Man film of all time. So when you have a film that is that universally acclaimed, and you have a game, which was 2018, which was so well acclaimed, the eyes are even bigger going into the sequel. This is why, everybody says, Spider-Man 2 is guaranteed to sell you a what, Boom?
Dude,
a
that is going 5. To be so big. Here's the thing, that I have a strong suspicion, again, folks, opinions, that's going to be multiplayer. That is going to be 2 people, one Spider-Man, one Miles, and
It
you're
makes
going
sense.
you're going ham on the city. I'm telling you.
Unless
I'd be
they're
shocked
doing
if
like
it wasn't, honestly.
yeah, unless they're doing like a Resident Evil remake type sort of thing where it's like a point
Maybe
A,
where you
point
switch
B.
off.
Yeah, maybe, or it just naturally does that throughout the story like it did with MJ. Maybe, but I do think there is a lot of potential there in a multiplayer element where you can have two players play as one. One is Miles, the other player is Peter, and you all just go through the story, have a co-op sort of element towards it. Absolutely, I can definitely see that. And again, that that movie by itself guaranteed, just sold that game out the woodwork. Another game that we know is coming, we haven't seen gameplay for it yet, or not like that, but we know it's coming, is Wolverine.
Dude,
Wolverine in the MCU going into phase 4 has already got you looking at Wolverine with bigger eyes. So you gotta look at this. Microsoft's looking like, okay, how do we get Gears of War in that type of light?
yes.
How do we get Halo further into that type of light? And the thing is, you got to this where these TV shows would definitely help, but you also got to look at the production as well and how you write these. You know what I mean? You can't just put a show together and like, oh yeah, well, this is going to guarantee you do it. No, you have to properly do this. And you have to have competent writing with this type of thing. And I do see them putting more of a stronger stance on it. So that's
absolutely. I mean, all great points from everyone so far. Fuzzy, Big Cloud just made mention of something that popped into my head and I thought was fantastic. Talking about one hand washing the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Netflix wants to get into games. They're terrible at it. They know it.
Oh yeah.
Microsoft knows how to make games and how to put them on a service and sell you the service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Microsoft don't know shit from Shimo when it comes to making film. Oh, but Netflix knows how to make film and TV and how to take an unknown IP and make it a phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
They're not afraid to show you some blood and guts on the screen. Just look at what happened with Eddie. You know what? Let me not. I don't want to do any spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything. Eddie's my favorite character because he's a hair metal dude, just like I was when I was a kid, and that guy was awesome. But look what they did with Stranger Things, right? Look what they did with Squid Games. Even though they didn't make it, it was produced somewhere else, but they know how to sell you an IP that you don't know about.
Oh yeah,
and make it popular. This is a deal. If it happens, if it comes to fruition, it's a winner chicken dinner for everybody involved, both technically and culturally. What are your thoughts on the numbers on what they're spending for AWS and how that could be something that they could reinvest that money in film for Microsoft rather than pay AWS if Microsoft owns them? Well, they don't have to pay themselves. They have to pay people to run it, sure, but that cost is not the same.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a way that they can insulate some of that expense, but it would be it's one of those things where they would definitely be able to take advantage of that influx of cash. Like with a business, you can always raise or lower your own prices and stuff like that, as far as from a tax standpoint to kind of, hide some money from the government. But Microsoft they don't really need to do that. The big thing, like you said, would be reinvestment into more producers, more shows, more actors, actresses, and things along those lines, as far as being able to get the talent in the right place for, new shows, and they would have a lot more leeway. And I don't want to say it's almost like the Game Pass effect to some extent, but I think would have a lot more leeway to get creative or to experiment with some of the shows. Because like there are some shows that don't really get talked about on Netflix that I tend to like, but it's one of those things that you would have never expected a couple of years ago for it to even be on something like Netflix, like Umbrella Academy, or I think it's
which is great, by the way. I mean, just fantastic.
Yeah, and then you got, was it Love, Robots, and Death, or Love, Death, and
so
Robots?
Good.
Yes.
I mean, some of those episodes could actually be turned into games, or would make interesting ideas for games. So you gotta
look at the scope, Fuzzy. When you got the backing of Microsoft, they can really push them further. Like Stranger Things could be much more broader and more gorier than you've ever seen.
And that's the thing. It's like that's where one hand washing the other. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Like this is an opportunity on both sides, and it gives like Microsoft a foot in the door for what they've tried to get into before.
Yep.
It's just that this time they'll have the vessel as far as the streaming service. I mean, they have the hardware, but they'll have the actual brand recognition that will be able to get them there. Like, looking back at Mixer was a great idea. I forget what it was called before. I think it was Beam or something like that.
Yeah, so it was Beam. Yep, correct.
But I guess it was one of those things they either didn't have the time or didn't want to put the resources into it because it just didn't seem like they were getting the return on investment. Even if Netflix kind of stays status quo, the investment, I think, in the grand scheme of things, especially with them using their own hardware, would definitely give them enough return on their investment within a shorter period of time as far as going into that. But yeah, Netflix would definitely benefit from the financial backing. Like, having the big wallet of Microsoft behind you makes things a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to get, certain, movie stars and whatnot to want to be on a project and things. Well, they know that there's going to be guaranteed pay coming out for, whatever roles they are requesting them for. And then as far as for directors and producers and things like that, they would be able to scout a lot more talent that they could, recruit for future shows and things along those lines. More producers would be coming to them in the hopes of being able to have that opportunity, and more than likely they will, stumble across a few gold mines in the meantime. But yeah, the grand scheme of things, it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's a equally mutual type of benefit, but both sides will benefit greatly in that type of deal. And man, I fingers crossed. I would love to see it for the fact that, I can now combine my Game Pass Ultimate with my Netflix account and maybe save a few bucks here or there or something along those lines. But yeah, it's definitely something that benefits everybody involved, I think, in the grand scheme of things.
Well, I mean, listen, all you have to do is, again, just look at the numbers, folks. The numbers are there. I know Michelle Alexandria, who appreciates you being here, she doesn't think that this is going to happen, and that potentially they would be under the eye or the scope of the government. And I would say that you have a point, but the reality is that everyone that I mentioned early on, Disney, Apple, Sony, Google, Amazon, they all have their own film and TV streaming services. They're off the table. Who doesn't have that? Microsoft doesn't have that. They're not in that business. They would be dipping their toe into a business that, even if you are a regulator, the only question that I can see is how they would go from number 2 to potentially number 1 in regards to web-based cloud servicings. And at that point, there is your only point of, well, they're going to go from 2 to 1. I don't know if they were going from 63rd to 1st. Maybe that would be more eyebrows to be raised. I still think that when you look at the big picture here, and you're looking to see, because again, I don't know for sure that the folks that own Netflix want out of the business. This is what the analysts said. The analysts, they're wrong all the time. But it's interesting that Microsoft announces this partnership. She brings up in that report, in that interview, that it's very sus that all of a sudden Netflix gets into bed with Microsoft, who has no history or experience in dealing in third-party marketing. It's a little strange for sure. So does that stir the pot a bit? For me, it does. But listen, folks, this has been a great almost 90-minute show. I got to catch up with some super chats. We'll get everyone out of here by doing outros. We have RWK_88 drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says this, and I didn't know this: Netflix earnings are tomorrow. Also, I didn't know. You know what? I'm not sure if their earning call is tomorrow or not. But if it is, it's all very sus. Scott Gamer Dude drops a very generous $5 super chat and says the movies and TV app on Xbox can become the Netflix TV movie storefront. I still buy from that app. Yeah, so do I. So do I as well. And that's again, integration, how it can easily be brought into everyone's box. And again,
you just have a game option as well.
Yes. You're watching a show and you'll see something pop up on your screen. You want to play The Witcher? Press this button. Boop, you're playing, and you're playing The Witcher. or you want to watch the Witcher series going from playing to watching, this is something that could potentially, I mean, I'm not a technician. I don't know.
It could be very seamless. Like you'll get the pop-up like, hey, we just added, I don't know, let's say Gear 6. You want to play Gear 6 and you just say Gear 6 and then you're on Gear 6 after.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. And that makes a whole mess of sense. JD Gamer, generous friend of the program, he drops an outstanding $20 super chat and says, known that when Microsoft buys Netflix, it doesn't end there. Expect them to almost immediately acquire Spotify, transforming Microsoft into one of the biggest entertainment juggernauts in the industry. So movies, music, and games all together. And who said that in the beginning? That's Spotify could potentially be next. That would be insane. That was you, Fuzzy, right?
No, I think that was Josh.
It was me.
Oh, okay, it was Josh. Yeah, so there you go. He also drops a $2 super chat and says, "Hey folks, great show. Hit that like button. Thank you for that. Definitely appreciate that. Listen, look, again, this is just a conversation, a big what if conversation. Is it going to happen? We don't know. All I can tell you is that, JD Gamer drops an additional $10 super chat and says, people said Netflix shows had unlimited budgets. Imagine Microsoft as the owner of Netflix. Their shows would definitely have something like an unlimited budget, and Microsoft would have another 158 million subscribers. Yeah, and that's what actually I was going to close with. Currently, Netflix has over 200,000 subscribers. Even the 200 million. Right, 200 million subscribers. They did lose 200,000 in their last quarterly financial. And for others, you lose 200,000 and you think it's going out of business. For them, they were like, well, it sucks, but we lost 200,000.
Yeah, it'll go up in September. It'll be
there's no doubt about it. But see, again, one hand helping the other. You know what I'm saying? They're saying one hand, washes the hands, and both hands wash the face. You ever heard that expression?
Yep.
Well, this would be one of those instances where each service, meaning Xbox Game Pass and Netflix, would have an injection of massive, potentially untapped, because there are a lot of gamers like us here. We have over 400 people here, so thank you. And if you are new, folks, we are under 200 from 11K, so please consider subscribing. We hit 10K on the Iron Lords podcast early in January this year. Been struggling with the numbers a bit, but if you are finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. Where the goal for this year is to hit 12K. That would be a monster achievement. Again, it's just me and my wife that run the channel, 4 live shows. It's a lot of work, but we love it. And we're trying to hit 12K, and we're almost at 11K. That would be really dope if we can get there. And again, I saw a lot of new names here. Consider subscribing. But once again, thank you, JD Gamer, for the generosity. Let's get to the outros. And we're going to start first with Josh because he's not feeling good, but he's still here. He's still breathing. Thank God, ladies and gentlemen. Now he's going to go do a TikTok video or 3. Josh, please sell your brand. Tell everyone where they can watch you in your 100-man Mario Kart adventures, where they can check you up on TikTok, where they can find your Halo podcast, which there's been some stuff to talk about recently about Halo.
A little bit.
Where can they check all that out? And more importantly, where could people reach out to you on social media to strike up a conversation?
I'm N64 Josh everywhere. I host the Nintendo Powercast, the Halo Infinite podcast, the Xbox Now podcast, as well as many others, honestly. Tomorrow's actually a pretty cool day on TikTok. I'm being spotlighted on TikTok at 3
nice,
p.m.
dude. Congrats.
Yeah, 3 p.m. Pacific. We're gonna be doing Fall Guys. So
that dude. I am what am I up to? My 16th crown,
Ooh.
I think, right now. Oh yeah, I'm loving it. I actually played yesterday on every platform just for the shits and giggles of it. And I hit level 100. I've already maxed out my game, my season pass. I am dressed as Mechagodzilla, which is dope.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah, I don't have a single crown. I usually have everybody grabbing onto me the moment the game starts, and I basically stand still while they all hang on, and that's how my games go. But it's all good. Like we're having fun. We're smiling. We're laughing, and again, getting spotlighted at 3 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. So if you got nothing going on, you want to come play some Fall Guys with me, I'd love to have you.
Yeah, send me the link so I can help you promote that, brother. That's pretty dope. Congratulations on that. And listen, man, I hope that you feel better super quick. And again, I don't know if you're going to be there tomorrow because we're going to, again, second half tomorrow, folks. It looks like the ABK deal is going to be done in 30 days. What does that mean for Xbox this fall? Well, it could mean a significant amount if that deal is done. But BitCloud, by all means, brother, sell your brand. Tell everyone they can check out your incredible YouTube channel. More importantly, find and take a look at that interview with David Jaffe from this Friday. And where can people check out some of your writings works on lordsofgaming.net?
Yeah, man. It's long overdue. It's been far too long, but it's been super busy outside. When I do upload, it's BitCloud Gaming, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. You find me there. And on the side, I'm also a writer, so I write for lordsofgaming.net. Recently, we just interviewed David Jaffe, one of the creators of God of War. Very, very awesome interview. You guys can find that there, lordsofgaming.net, and you can also find it on the RGT podcast. That's where he was on my channel, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday. Great. Definitely a great conversation. We always get into a lot over there, a lot of great topics, and we have fun at the end of the day. Gotta get Boom on there one of these weeks, but it's gotta.
Yes, we definitely got. This week's a bad week. Poor Mrs. Boom is gonna get stuck working. Oh man, I hope not every late overtime every day because she works in the senior center. She's the assistant director there, and because it's gonna be hot as here in New York, they're gonna open it up for cooling center. So she's gonna get stuck, and that sucks. I feel bad for her because it's gonna be hot as hell, and she's got to be there, but. Yeah, dude, we'll definitely put our, we'll put thinking caps on. I definitely got to get on to your show in the coming weeks for sure. Shout out to Scott Gamer, dude. He was talking about, and I'm hearing a lot of people talking about this. He says that the power washing game on Xbox Game Pass is therapeutic. I keep hearing that. That's crazy. I think it was, who was it? It was Mav that said he spent 3 Mav, a fun speculation said he spent 3 hours cleaning up playground. That's freaking awesome.
That's math, all right. That's
you can lose 3 hours of your life cleaning a playground virtually. That is pretty freaking cool. Daniel McGee, sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone if they want to find out, if they want long takes. And this is what's interesting about Daniel. He does videos. He does 10-minute videos, 15-minute videos. But those aren't the ones that you should be listening to. Well, you should, but it's his ones that he spends 45 minutes to an hour because the minutia of the way he breaks things down is incredibly important. It's very well thought out, very well done. Definitely get over and subscribe to his YouTube channel. And Daniel, where can people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on social media?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media at Daniel J. McGee on Twitter. It's really the only social media I use. I exist on the other ones, but if you message me there, I probably won't see it. And yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Daniel McGee, exactly how it says in the box. It's Daniel MCG. Just put out a video yesterday. It's a 30-minute video about just kind of dream pitching some licensed games for Xbox Studios.
Love it.
Like a superhero game for Coalition, stuff like that. So it's one that I'm pretty happy with. So maybe you'll be happy with it too. Maybe come by, hit me with a subscription.
I'm gonna say this right now: if the Coalition isn't making the next Punisher game, we riot. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Hey man,
because that would be kind of dope. And last and no way least, racing entrepreneur himself, Fuzzy Belvedere. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, brother. We will see you back in the saddle this Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the new episode, of course, of Breakfast with Boom. I don't have a show right now. I have to get the information and write that. But please sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media. But more importantly, get hot takes and hot tips on how to race properly and not drive like BoomStick just did moments ago.
Well, I just want to thank you for having me on here today, and thanks for everyone out in the chat that's been calm, cool, and collected. And even though we don't all agree as far as the potential acquisition, it's awesome to kind of think or predict or at least look at it as if it could be or what could be in the future. But it was awesome being on here with the panel. It's always awesome being on with BitCloud, with Josh, with Daniel, and with you, Boom. But for anybody that wants to get my, I guess, random thoughts on anything gaming related, just follow me on Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere or check out my YouTube at fuzzy_Belvedere on YouTube. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, brother, and definitely appreciate everyone being here. We had almost 500 people here, which is awesome on a kind of like an offshoot kind of a show. Acquisitions, obviously, everyone gets excited about. This one seems like it is going to be talked about by other podcasts because obviously it's a conversation to be had. And again, if you want the skinny and the breakdown of what was reported and what was said by the FTC and Microsoft specifically, we're going to be breaking that down. We're also going to be talking about how Platinum Games apparently has pitched a new IP to Microsoft, and they want to partner with them to produce the next Platinum Games title. Well, is that scale bound? I don't know. And also tomorrow we're going to be talking about just how big is the new DLC expansion for Forza Horizon 5. Well, it is twice the size of the original DLC that came for Forza Horizon 3. And we'll break down exactly what the number is and what to expect. And that's actually releasing this week. I cannot wait to record some footage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That has been our show. Again, if you're new, please consider subscribing. Please hit the like button on the way out. I want to thank everyone who has donated through Super Chat and channel membership. And this Friday, ladies and gentlemen, this Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mrs. Boomstick and I will be giving away $400 worth of digital giveaways, 8 $50 gift cards, 4 up front when the show starts, 4 on the back end before it ends. And all you got to do to win is be in the chat, and we let the picker do the picking. And folks, like I've said before, if you are an international viewer, don't sweat it. We will get you your prize one way or another, through PayPal, through a Cash App, one way or another, and we will pay the transfer fees. We will pay the denomination fees for your country's form of cash to ours, so you don't pay anything. And speaking of not paying anything, there are still people reaching out to me. Some mother decided to copy Double Barrel Gaming by making it one word and made a channel, and YouTube is doing nothing. They even used my picture. Yeah. Which is incredible. They've had over 200 complaints, and still YouTube is allowing them to keep doing their business. You will never be asked by me or Mrs. Boom to give anything. So don't be fooled by any of the imitations. If you win, we pay for everything, shipping, taxes, and otherwise. This mother is out there asking people for $150 for them to ship you your Ghost Series X, which we know is false. Do not fall for it. And again, YouTube has not done anything about it, but I am not the only channel. This happened to Dealer. This happened to a few others. And a lot of the big YouTubers, like I'm talking about million sub count YouTubers, are having this happen. This is something that's rampant on YouTube. It's disgusting. Yep. And like I said, if you're going to win, we're going to make sure that you get your prize and we pay for everything. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for supporting Double Barrel Gaming in our quest for 12K in 2022. I'm going to close out the show with something that is important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And it stayed with me my entire life, specifically as I served as a New York City police officer for 21 years. He said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week. We'll see you next tomorrow on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.